Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome in to Tider Insider Television, brought to you by, as mentioned, Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. We've got our tumblers ready to go. Alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris, and let's get to it. Miami head coach Manny Diaz had a simple explanation following his team's 44-13 loss to Alabama this past Saturday in Atlanta, calling the Tide, quote, the most complete football team that he's faced in his time at Miami, end quote. All right, let's have some of our takeaways, and great video here by Keith Dobbins, WVUA 23 videographer, who was there with me at the game on Saturday. Rodney, I was there, and I can just tell you that Alabama was more impressive than I expected. I expected Alabama to win the game. I picked it 35-17. It wasn't like I picked it to be a nail-biter. But I did not expect this offense, which has 8 players from a year ago that were starters, including Jalen Waddle, who started for half a season until he got hurt, that are in the National Football League. New quarterback, 3 new offensive linemen, new tight end, 2 new wide receivers, new running back, and I thought I was watching last year's offense. Bryce Young was incredible. The defense was as good as advertised. Rodney, I got to tell you, I was impressed because I thought and still think that Miami is a good team. I don't think they're a great team, but I think they're a good team.
No, I'm with you. I think they are good, Gary, and I think the thing that really is going to be beneficial to this Alabama offense in this game, the pressure they brought. I mean, they brought a lot. This Alabama offense saw a lot of pressure. Bryce Young faced a lot of blitzes. He was 8 out of 10 on third downs. That's pretty phenomenal. That year, Gary, that he spent, we talked about the importance of that, but sitting behind Mac Jones, learning from this, from the people in front of him, from those in front of him, certainly I think was very beneficial, but he played like a veteran. The defense played really well. There you see Jalen Moody with the pick. So it was obviously a great start. I'm with you. I thought that you thought you would see more first-game hiccups, and there were some, but we didn't see a lot of them.
How good was Bryce Young? 27 of 38, 344, 4 touchdowns, no picks. That's the best starting debut in Alabama football history for a quarterback. He was just exceptional. Brian Robinson taking over as the starter for Najee Harris, 12 carries, 60 yards. Trey Sanders coming off a season-ending injury and then a car accident last year that really put his football career in jeopardy. He basically hasn't played in 2 years. How about him, Rodney? He came in and went for 41 yards on 8 carries and a touchdown. A word about Trey Sanders, because Nick Saban said it afterwards, said, listen, what he's gone through to get back to this point is admirable.
Yeah, I remember when the accident occurred last November, shortly after the Mississippi State game, and he had a really good game there. He was starting to come into his own, starting to feel himself as a running back, and had that serious injury, Gary, and there was a lot of speculation that he may never play again. So the fact that not only he's playing, but he played at a really high level, he's starting to look like the old Trey Sanders.
Also, Nick Saban had said it. He said, listen, the transfer portal is not going to hurt us. Our best players are going to stay, but we're going to get some of other teams' best players. Well, I'd say Jameson Williams, listen, I get it, Ohio State's loaded at wide receiver, but he's as good as advertised. 126 yards and a touchdown on just 4 catches, including that 94-yarder right there. Right into Keith Dobbins' viewfinder.
Yeah, speed. We talked about that when he announced he was transferring to Alabama. 2 things he brought to this wide receiver corps: experience and speed, that 10.4, 900-meter speed that he has. So, again, I thought both transfers, when you look at Jameson Williams on offense, Henry To'oTo'o on the defensive side.
Yeah, on defense, let's get to it. For Alabama, over 500 yards offense, Miami held to 266 with just 13 points. We'll get to Chris Allen in a moment, but Alabama on defense was dominant. You've basically got 3 starters at inside linebacker. Henry T. and Christian Harris start the game, but Jalen Moody's like a 3rd starter. He came in. Fedarian Mathis, a guy with a lot of experience. Gosh, he was disruptive. What can you say about Will Anderson Jr.? He's the cyborg. The secondary, I thought, was awesome. Even the 1 touchdown was a perfect throw and catch by Miami. There was good coverage. But it was a disappointing aspect of it was Chris Allen. And, you don't know what to say. That Sanders came in and played well, but Chris Allen, for a quarter and a half, Rodney, I was watching him. He was just playing on the other side of the line of scrimmage. I mean, he was absolutely destroying the Miami offensive line. As good as these other guys are, this is a setback to lose him to a foot injury, possibly for the season.
Well, the thing I really hate about it's for him, because You know, he came in here highly recruited out of Baton Rouge several years ago. You know, he had a knee injury that cost him a year. He really started to come into his own last year a little bit, and this was going to be his year, the year that he was going to set himself up and be very impactful player for the Alabama defense. Now, there you see it. Unfortunately, it does look like that he's likely out for the year, but now you have to move on, and obviously Alabama's recruited a lot of really good players. Trey Sanders did a fantastic job stepping in. Chris Braswell's a tremendous pass rusher as well. So those two guys, and watch out for true freshman Dallas Turner. He's a guy that's turned a lot of heads in practices. Gary's a 5-star recruit out of Fort Lauderdale, so I'm sure he's going to get some opportunities as well.
We'll hear from Brian Branch in a moment on the loss of Allen. So that's the bad. Also, Henry Toa went down with, I guess they're calling it an elbow sprain, but he said today that he's okay. He's expected to play. That's the bad. I guess there wasn't much else to try to nitpick. We talked about all the good. Bryce was incredible. I guess you could say that late in the first half, Rodell Williams had a fumble. Alabama got it back, but it slowed the game down. And then Holden dropped the ball right between the 1 and the 1. Alabama should have kept the drive alive. They wound up punting. Miami took it down, kicked a field goal. And then to start the second half, they had their best drive of the day, and they drove it to the 1. Now, Alabama stopped them. But other than that little span of maybe 4 or 5 or 6 minutes, Alabama was dominant. But that's something that they can work on. They seem to have a little bit of a mental letdown.
Yeah, they did. They had a lull, and that's certainly something that sometimes happens. They got a little sloppy. But at the same time, Gary, I thought they finished strong. They had a really good drive near the end of the game, which was good to see. So, again, for a first game, I mean, this was beyond good.
Yeah, it was. And we told you about Chris Allen. It's so disappointing, but injuries are part of football. Here's Brian Branch now saying that it's tough to lose this guy, but that he's confident that Trey Sanders and others can pick up the slack.
He's different. You know, he comes to work every day. His work ethic is incredible. He plays hard, physical. I'm telling you, that linebacker position is really, really tough. The depth at it is amazing.
And, Rod, we saw that. We saw Trey Sanders come in, highly recruited out of the state of Texas, has waited his turn. But when Allen went down, he stepped in and I thought played very, very well.
Yeah, he's a fabulous athlete. I mean, when he was in high school at Denton Ryan, he was a 5-star player. Gary, I mean, a guy that played linebacker, played quarterback, played just about any position. He was a 5-star tight end as well, really. He could originally committed to Oklahoma as a tight end. I think he's going to be a fantastic player.
And the defense, again, just to put a wrap on the Miami game, and we'll look ahead to Mercer in the next segment. 266 is, by today's standards, that's incredible. 13 points, you'll take it just about every game with Alabama's offense. But they lived up to the hype, and that's hard to do sometimes. A lot was expected out of this Alabama defense, and at least in this first game, they answered the bell. And I think that speaks not to just their talent, but their experience. They've been through the wars. They've been tested. Yeah,
I think, too. Listen, Miami's got a veteran offensive line, even though a lot of people said, well, they haven't been very good in the past. But the quarterback, De'Aaron King, coming off that knee injury, I thought he performed really well. I thought he threw the ball really well. But, yeah, I mean, for a first game, it went about as well as you could expect.
Hate to lose Chris Allen, but Alabama has depth, and that's why they're the #1 team in the country. They can overcome the loss of a star player sometimes where other programs cannot. Well, still to come on Tider Insider Television, Alabama is set to face the Mercer Bears on Saturday. Mercer's 1-0 after winning their season opener 69-0. We'll discuss this game when we come back. Plus, one of Alabama's basketball's big additions from the offseason in the transfer portal. Looks like he's going to be sidelined with a serious injury. We'll have the details coming up. And we'll be getting to your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Right there's the information. As always, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. You can email us at the address on your screen or tweet at us using the hashtag TITV. We'll be right back with more Tider Insider TV right after this. And welcome back to TITV, sponsored by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Well, the Miami game, you were facing a top 15 team, even though you were a 19.5-point favorite. It was a marquee matchup, and since that Miami's got a proud tradition. Saturday afternoon's home opener, not so much. And this isn't a knock at Mercer. This is video from the 2017 game. Alabama won 56-0. They're a good FCS team in the Southern Conference, but they're an FCS team. Alabama has played them 3 times, 1939 and 1940. They beat them 20-0 both years, and then, as I said, 4 years ago, 56-0. So they've not given up a point to Mercer. Now, Mercer did win their season opener against Point University, Rodney, out of West Point, Georgia. Yeah, West Point University, 69-0. So, again, I'm not going to sit here and try to make this into something that it isn't. This is not going to be a competitive game. I mean, these are 2 different levels of programs. Alabama is going to win this game and win it handedly. Rodney, I guess with that in mind, I will ask you, when you play a game like this, it is the home opener, so it's important. I guess, first of all, you want to win the game. Secondly, you want to play well. And thirdly, I'd like to think that you don't want to get anybody hurt. And then you want to try to play some young players and get them some meaningful snaps and game action, which they were really robbed of last year because of the SEC-only schedule.
Well, and I think, too, Gary, the one thing, especially when you have a young team coming off a big opening win, great performance, a lot of people talking about Bryce Young, people saying go ahead and give Alabama the trophy. Then you come home, you have the home opener against Mercer. And how do they respond? How do these young players respond? You want them to play, as Nick Saban always says, play to that standard, play to the standard. So I think that's the big thing I'll be looking forward to on Saturday is, do these young players, especially on the offensive side of the ball, do they play to that standard that they set in that first game? Because that takes a lot of maturity. And, again, I know Nick Saban is hammering that point home to them right now.
And for Mercer, it's an opportunity to get a big paycheck, which helps them with their athletic budget at the FCS level out of Macon, Georgia, and also for their players. It's an opportunity to come into Bryant-Denny Stadium, play the #1 ranked team in the country, the defending national champion, so it's a memorable opportunity for them. And we'll look forward to the home opener on Saturday. Well, now it's time for Coach Talk. Saturday's game against Mercer will have the fans present. Bryant-Denny Stadium will be at full capacity, and there will be tailgating as well. And that will give the team and players a lift, something that we didn't have last season. It was missed, just 20% capacity. But Coach Saban wants the focus to remain on the opponent, the process, and not the atmosphere.
And I think it's, really, really important that our players have the right mindset between week 1 and week 2 to really address the things that we need to improve on. These guys have good players relative to their level, and I think the focus for us needs to be on what we do and how we do it, and how we do it regardless of the circumstance and the situation in the game. So that's what we're going to stay focused on.
Nick Saban always respecting the opponent. Well, unfortunately, it wouldn't be an upcoming Alabama basketball season without a significant injury. This is getting too commonplace. Namari Burnett, a 5-star, former high school star, combo guard from Texas Tech who transferred in, has reportedly torn his ACL. According to Jeff Goodman from Stadium, Cecil Hurd of the Tuscaloosa News, the first report they had a significant injury. And according to Goodman, he is going to be lost for the season. Burnett becomes the second member of the Bama basketball team to get injured this offseason. As far as James Rojas also tore his ACL and had surgery in June. And we know that for the last couple of years, Alabama's dealt with a lot of injuries. And this is a big hit. This young man was expected to compete for a starting position. Alabama volleyball was back in action this past weekend at home for the Crimson Tide Invitational as they played host to Troy, Buffalo, Nate Oates' old school, and Southern Miss. The Tide went on to win the Invitational, beating Buffalo 3-0 and Southern Miss 3-2, but did lose to Troy 3-1. Bama in action as we speak over at Kennesaw State. And Alabama soccer struggled over the weekend as they lost both matches. They lost at home to Sanford 1-0 on Thursday night. That's disappointing. And then lost at Memphis 3-1 on Sunday. With the 2 setbacks, Alabama's at even 500 at 3-3 on the season. They'll be at home once again this Thursday as they host the TCU Horned Frogs. Well, coming up, a handful of former Alabama golfers had their dreams come true over the weekend. Stick around to find out who is taking the next step in their professional careers. And up next, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. One of our favorite parts of the show. You see the information on how to get in touch with us, 205-348-9882, or you can email us or tweet at us. We'll be back to hear from Tider Insider Nation next, right here on Tider Insider TV. Earned their PGA Tour cards this past weekend as they go up from the Korn Ferry Tour. Lee Hodges, Trey Mullinax, and Davis Riley on the PGA Tour next season. Hodges and Riley finished 8th and 9th on the Korn Ferry Tour this season, while Mullinax, who is going back to the PGA Tour, finished 2nd in the Korn Ferry Tour Championship after holding the solo lead for each of the first 3 rounds. So Jay Sewell has done an unbelievable job with Alabama men's golf, and how do you, just like any other sports team, you got to have great players. He's had them, and the PGA Tour shows that. Of course, Justin Thomas, former Bama golfer under J.C. Well, one of the best players in the world. All right, let's go to the phone lines. First up tonight is our good buddy, the Tomato Man, Sammy up there in Walker County. Hey, Sammy, what's up?
Hey, Gary, Rodney, great job, guys. I just want to comment on the defense. Fedarian Mass has been down there several years.
Yes.
Really just played great on that line. And Will Anderson, what can you say about him? He's just a beast. I'm telling you, and the tackling, Gary and Rodney was
good.
really great, I thought, for a first game. And against Mercer, the defense will be tested by assignment football. That's all. It's assignment football. And I don't know, I saw him once or twice, the rugby-style punter. I think that's going to be a season-long trial and error there. I don't know about that, but we'll see. Thanks, guys.
All right, Sammy, yeah, a lot to cover there. A word on Fedarian Mathis. I, too, feel the same way. Alabama recruits at such a high level, but every player doesn't come in here and star as a freshman. Every now and then they get frustrated and they leave and go somewhere else, and as Nick Saban has said, most of those that leave wish they had not. Fedarian Mathis is an example, and we've seen others, of somebody hanging in here, just continuing to work at it, and now is going to be a dominant college football defensive lineman and have a chance to play in the NFL because he waited and he did not get frustrated with the process. And boy, I tell you, Chris Allen was playing great when he got hurt. Anderson was playing great. Toa, Kristen Harris, Moody, goes on and on. But Fedarian Mathis, from first snap to the end of the game, played great in that game.
Out of the state of Louisiana.
Yeah.
I remember him well being recruited. And, really, Gary, the recruiting story with him is that Alabama was in on two players, a five-star Aubrey Solomon. You remember him, that went to Michigan, ended up at Tennessee. Who's had the better career?
Oh, been Mathis by a long
Mathis.
shot. As far as burn-up, Sammy, he needs to punt better than he punted Saturday. 31-yard average on 2 punts. But they've got Jack Martin from Troy. They've got Ty P. Ryan. You might see a week-to-week competition for this punter's job because it was his first game, so we'll cut him a little bit of slack. We'll see who's out there on Saturday. They may use more than one guy, but he does need to punt better than that, especially when you watch that Miami guy, who's also from Australia. He was the MVP for them.
And I think you hit on the point, too. He's never kicked in a game, period. So, again, we'll see how he does.
All right, let's get to an email, Rod, and this is from Perry and Verbena. How did the dominance of Saturday's win compare to the Tide's win over the Canes in the 92 title game? Well, similar. Now, let's be honest. The stakes were a little bit higher back in the 93 Sugar Bowl for the 92 season, and that Miami team, many said, was unbeatable. So while Alabama was dominant Saturday against the number 14 Miami squad, this was the number 2 ranked Alabama destroying a team that was a dynasty. They were in a run like Alabama's in right now. So I'd have to say this game was obviously more impressive.
You talking about the 92 game? Oh, absolutely, yeah. No question about it. I mean, when you look at what Miami had, Gary, who gave Alabama a chance in that game? Not many.
Not many at all. Man, you just still watch these highlights. It's impressive. All right, Matt, what are we doing next? All right, we're going to take a break here on the program, but we'll come back with more of your phone calls and emails. And on Sunday, 2 former Alabama quarterbacks will be doing something that has not been done since 1983. You'll want to stay tuned to see what this is. And as I said, more phone calls, emails, and tweets right there. The information on your screen on how you can get in touch with us. Interact with Tider Insider TV right now. Well, the NFL season starts this week, and on Sunday we'll have something happen that hasn't happened since November 21st, 1983. 2 former Alabama quarterbacks will start for their teams against each other. Tua and the Dolphins taking on Mac and the Patriots. How cool is that, man? And then you got Jalen Hurts also starting for the Eagles. So a team that has not produced a starting quarterback in nearly 40 years is going to have 3 of them on Sunday and 2 going head-to-head. Rod, just for some context, that hasn't happened since Richard Todd rallied the Jets to a 31-28 victory over Ken Stabler and the Saints on Monday Night Football, November 21, 1983. Stabler went 12 of 19 for 190 yards and a touchdown. Todd, 20 of 30 for 230 yards and a touchdown and 1 interception as the Jets, as I said, rallied. So on Sunday, I know 3:25 p.m., I already know the time. Most of us, you're going to be watching the Patriots and the Dolphins.
Really look forward to it, Gary. Certainly, listen, how long did it go before Alabama had a starting quarterback? There was a long period.
Nearly 40
there,
years.
And it was
like 36,
wonder if they'd ever have another one. Now here you got 3, and then you've got 2 going against each other. And I think there's more to come.
3 all from the same team, not just the same program. All right, real quickly, let's get to a phone call. Rick over in Brent. Hey, Rick.
How are y'all tonight?
Hey, man, good. What you got on your mind, buddy?
I just want, do you agree that Coach Saban's got Billingsley's attention?
Absolutely, Rick. Yeah, listen, and I've been saying this on TV and on my radio show. Football's important to Jaleel Billingsley, all right? Everything's going to be fine there. You know, he didn't do some things that he needed to do. Nick Saban is teaching him about how you do things in this organization, but I think he's going to be fine. He's going to contribute to this football team. He's got an NFL future ahead of him. Everything's going to be fine.
And you look at all those weapons that they have, the ones that they're developing, some of those young players. We've talked about JoJo Earl quite a bit, and he got some opportunities in this game. When you get Jaleel Billingsley back in the mix, this offense, the thing about it, as impressive as they were, Gary, it's the potential that they have that's really impressive.
Yeah, all right. Thanks for the phone calls and the emails. When we come back, it's prediction time. Prediction time, Rodney, Saturday afternoon, Alabama and Mercer.
Well, Mercer's what, 0-3 against Alabama? They've never scored against Alabama. Will the Tide defense keep that streak alive? I think they will, Gary. 52-0.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Listen, they're going to run a offense, one of these option wing T type things. So, you know, defensive linemen and linebackers are going to have to use their hands to keep the blockers, you know, off their legs and knees. So that could be a little bit of a concern. But clearly, you know, it's 2 different levels of talent, FCS versus the #1 program in the country at the FBS level. They've never scored. I don't think they'll score on Saturday. I've got it 58-0, Alabama over Mercer, Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock at Bryant-Denny Stadium on the SEC Network. All right, that is going to do it for TI TV. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports for their sponsorship of the program. Don't forget, if you missed any of the show, you can catch a replay tonight at 10:30 or anytime at WVUA23.com. We'll leave you tonight with Alabama football practice from earlier this afternoon. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching. Good night.
All right, sit there.